We rejoin you with our special post-debate edition of Countdown. And if January's debate between Clinton and Obama in Los Angeles was the love-in in L.A., tonight's matchup in the city of brotherly love might be remembered as the faint praise face-off. After being pressed, Senator Clinton now on the record that she believes her opponent is electable, saying that Senator Obama can beat the presumptive Republican nominee, Senator McCain, in the general election, possibly 3 times. She said yes, yes, yes. What is more, she said, she will do what it takes to guarantee a Democratic victory in November.
I'm going to do everything I possibly can to make sure that one of us takes the oath of office next January. I think that has to be the overriding goal. Whatever we have to do. Obviously, we are still contesting to determine who will be the nominee. But once that is resolved, I think it is absolutely imperative that our entire party close ranks, that we become unified. We will certainly do whatever is necessary to make sure that a Democrat is in the White House next January.
Beyond electability, scandal the focus of ABC's questioning tonight. Senator Clinton issuing her first ever public apology for having claimed erroneously that she landed in Bosnia under sniper fire in 1996. I'm sorry I said it, she admitted. I said some things I knew not to be the case. Senator Obama answering questions about his recent bitter comments, the Reverend Wright scandal, and his tenuous association with 60s and 70s radical William Ayers. Joining us now, Rachel Maddow of Air America Radio and, of course, of MSNBC, and former presidential candidate, MSNBC political analyst Pat Buchanan. Good evening to you both.
Keith. Hi, Keith.
All right, Pat, I'll start with you. Was there a game changer in there?
I think Barack Obama had a very, very bad night. He was on the defensive, and understandably, they came right at him, Keith, as you mentioned, with his 4 most vulnerable issues from the past. Even the flag pin was brought up. William Ayers was explored really in some depth. Reverend Wright was brought back in. In addition, you got Hillary Clinton was really sticking the needle in, helping the moderators out as they were throwing the questions to him. It did look like the ABC fellows said, look, reporters, the journalists have been blamed for being too soft on Obama. We're going to take care of that image tonight. I think Obama sounded very defensive when he talked about the cookies, and he made other comments bringing in the Weather Underground. It showed him not at his best. I think he was defensive, and I have to say this. My guess is, Keith, he's a very angry man tonight at what was done in that first half hour of that debate.
Rachel, does he have a reason to be angry?
Well, yeah. And I actually feel like as a viewer, I'm kind of angry, too. There was something sort of, I don't know, disappointing and kind of gross about how this nice formatting contrast between having the kind of big-voiced, goofy-sounding guy intoning these sections of from the Constitution, leading into every section, and then we'd get to the break and let's talk more about cookies and the Weather Underground. I mean, it would have been great to have the constitutional lead into some actual questions about constitutional issues, but instead it was, I think, in your very apt phrase, I think it was very tabloid. On the issue of Barack Obama's defensiveness tonight, I do think that that is the best grounds on which to say that he probably came out on the short end of the stick in terms of the overall measure of tonight's performance. But there is a little bit of a silver lining for him on this, and that is that Barack Obama is probably the candidate who can best stand to look defensive in a debate. Because one of the questions Democrats have about him is how he bears up under criticism. And boy, did he get a lot of it tonight. We know a lot about how he bears up under criticism. He says a lot. He punches back a little bit, but he doesn't lose his go ahead, question about how he bears up under criticism, we now know exactly what it looks like.
Go ahead, Keith, Pat. I have to say, on the Ayers thing, I mean, I've learned a lot more tonight about William Ayers, and frankly, Wolfson was moving the story forward right on your interview there about how he'd wish he'd planted more bombs before, and then we found out he had the fundraiser for him. I didn't know some of these things, or maybe I'd heard them and forgotten them. But I do think William Ayers is going to be a big figure tomorrow on the front pages and in the columns, and that story's been pushed into the press. And Reverend Wright's been brought back. And the flag pin was dead a long time ago. And then they brought that Pennsylvanian to bring the flag pin back to raise questions. So the 4 worst problems that Barack Obama has had in a long campaign of over a year were all 4 front and center as the first 4 issues.
But here's two points about that occur to me, Pat, and I'd like both of you to chime in on this. Pat first. If all of this stuff has been thrown at him in the last month by Senator Clinton, the last 50 days since the last debate, and it's Senator Clinton's popularity and electability scores have dropped precipitously, and very little has happened except in terms of improvement in the polls for Senator Obama. How does this change anything, and how does it suggest things would change in a general election? Because I've suggested this before in the complimentary sense of the word that used to be used with President Reagan, that there is perhaps a Teflon quality, or maybe a growing Teflon quality, to Senator Obama and these controversies. What do you think?
Well, Senator Obama is a nice guy. He's a very pleasant guy, and he's not a knife fighter. And that comes through quite clearly. And in addition to that, the person who's making the charge and sticking the knife in, he usually hurts himself or herself. The best thing for the Clinton campaign to do would be to have others be raising this and have Hillary pass over it. But they're in very tough straits. But we will find out whether the proof is in the pudding here, Keith. If Obama comes, say, and this is, say, Hillary Rodham Clinton wins this, or Hillary Clinton wins this by 2 or 3 points or 1 point, or Obama wins, then this thing didn't work, and the Republicans better wake up and say, hey, fellas, the stuff didn't work. You better check and see whether it works with those Reagan Democrats the way you thought it did.
Rachel, stand by on this. I'm going to have to take a break, but we'll pick it up with the idea of, if you're the one being criticized and everybody's talking about your responses, did you win the debate? Because nobody seems to be mentioning the other candidates. Stand by. Coming up with Rachel and Pat as we move towards the top of the hour, the storylines of the past few weeks, the attempts to bring them all in tonight, and how did the candidates handle all that? You're watching MSNBC special coverage here on Countdown. Back again in the aftermath of the 21st Democratic presidential debate in Philadelphia tonight. Back with Pat Buchanan of MSNBC and Rachel Maddow of Air America and MSNBC. Rachel, let me pick up with a point we had to truncate because of the break there. If we're talking about how Senator Obama responded to the various criticisms thrown at him and the barbed questions thrown at him by the moderators, by dint of that, did he win the debate no matter what was thrown out there against him?
Well, I don't think so. I don't think that he did a particularly bad job, but I think that this debate is now being essentially carried out on Republican terms. I mean, I was really struck by what Pat talked about with the big 4 issues against Obama being the dominant discussion points for the first 50 minutes of the debate. I mean, those 4 issues are the flag pin, a guy he barely knows in Chicago, his pastor, and whatever the other one was. That is these kinds of culture and caricature and these sort of insinuation campaigns rather than anything substantive. If this debate is going to be about, if this campaign is going to be about, with ABC's help, this campaign is going to be about what are the Republicans going to say about you, that's the kind of grounds that Hillary Clinton has made the case for herself from the very beginning. She has said from the very beginning, listen, I've taken all the Republicans have to offer. I more than anybody else know how to draw this fire and how to endure it. We need to run somebody who's going to be best against the Republicans. Barack Obama has tried to say, I'm post-partisan, I'm beyond that, I want to take on the country's issues, not just take on the GOP. This is on her terms now, on her ground.
Keith, let me say, I think, take a look at the Ayers thing, the flag pin, Reverend Wright, the condescension statement toward Pennsylvanians.
Oh, yes.
They're all aimed at portraying Barack Obama as an out-of-touch, elitist, leftist, left coast individual, uncaring. In other words, paint him out there, which is the game plan of the Republicans since the McGovern years. And all these questions fed right into that particular image. But if you want to talk about a big substantive question, I think this idea that Hillary Clinton was talking about massive retaliation, you know, if Iran attacks Israel or any Arab state there, that the United States will automatically respond. You know, we got a constitution. There is no NATO treaty with countries in that part of the world, and how a president can single-handedly order American forces into a war in which we have not been attacked, I think is an issue it's going to be talked an awful lot about. I don't know what she means by massive retaliation.
Yeah, I noted that one, too. I'm going to take the opportunity to take our last break here so we can get into that with a little substance with Pat and Rachel as our post-debate coverage continues here on MSNBC.